aka PT Sports 84, back with another NBA 2K24 video. Today is the third official 2K ratings update. So 2K tried to get everything set up for the holidays as far as players off the injured list and things like that, because as you know with 2K, they're usually out of the office throughout the holidays. So I wouldn't expect major updates unless there's a major trade or something of that nature. But without further ado, let's dive into the ratings changes, who went up, who went down. As always, we start with the Philadelphia 76ers. What's up, big man Sam? Happy holidays to you as well, man. The 76ers, we got Joel Embiid going +1 to 98 overall. He has been a monster over the past 3 weeks. Really, 2K's looking at the last, 8-9 games, if I'm not mistaken, in total. So that's what these ratings are based off of. Excuse me. Also, just another disclaimer, if anybody hasn't already watched the retro update that I put out just a few minutes ago, classic teams were updated. No updates to the My NBA era rosters. That's likely coming with the patch sometime second week of January for the next season. But I also do have a little bit of a cold, so excuse me if I cough. I apologize. Not trying to do it on purpose. I'm just trying to get over the flu and still got some symptoms and things like that. So hope everybody is healthy. Do not get what I had. I was down and out for about a week. So, but anyway, starting to get back to normal. But let's dive back into the ratings update. So next up, we have D'Anthony Melton. He actually goes -1 to a 77 overall. Marcus Morris gets a bump +2. He had gone down 2 in the last update. He gets bumped up +2 to a 76 overall. Position update. Thank you, MSNDN. Appreciate that. Thank you. Nick Batum actually goes up 1 in overall to a 75, but he gets a position change to small forward, power forward, because those that don't watch the Sixers, he splits time with Kelly Oubre there. So KJ Martin actually goes down -2. Finally, they knocked him down. He's barely played. He's a strong trade candidate, in my opinion, for the Sixers. I just don't see where they play him, to be honest. But moving over to the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis Antetokounmpo +1 to a 97 overall. Damian Lillard drops -1 to a 92 overall. Brook Lopez drops -1 to an 82 overall. Bobby Portis +1 to an 81 overall. Going over to Andre Jackson Jr., he goes to a +173 overall. And then AJ Green goes +1 to a 72 overall. What's interesting is Andre Jackson's been starting at the 2, but he's kind of like a 2-3-1 hybrid that can play all three. So good to see him getting minutes. He's a good defender. Chicago Bulls +1 for DeMar DeRozan to an 84 overall. They've been really, really scorching hot since Zach LaVine went down. That should tell you everything you need to know. It's time to move on from Zach LaVine. For all I care, the Lakers can have him. Let the Lakers go down in flames. Just my personal preference. Kobe White gets the +4 treatment to an 81 overall. Averaged 25 points a game in the month of December. He has been lights out from 3 as well, so really well-deserved him getting a bump. Patrick Williams actually looks like an NBA player again. He goes +2 to a 77 overall. +1 for Ayu Dosunmu to a 75. And then Torrey Craig goes +1 to a 75, but unfortunately, Torrey Craig is going to be out for 8 to 10 weeks with a heel injury, so we'll see what happens from the bench as far as Terry Taylor and Julian Phillips maybe filling in that role there. Going over to the Cleveland Cavaliers, they got a rough bit of news with the injuries to Garland and Mobley, and now they're trying to trade Ricky Rubio. They're in negotiations to try to get something done, whether it's a buyout or something, but we'll see what happens. we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, they lowered Amani Bates' tendency by 30 because it's the NBA. So they didn't want the simulation. If you simulate the season, they didn't want Amani Bates to somehow get in the rotation due to injuries and then average a lot. Yes, he does average a lot in the G League. He's really good, but they did it for the NBA side of things. They don't look at G League stats or anything like that. Unfortunately, I wish they would, but they don't. I wish they would fill out the G League teams with NBA free agents that are in there, but they don't do that, unfortunately. I wish they would. I've tried to ask, but they, it doesn't seem like something they want to do. Anyway, jumping into the Cavaliers ratings changes. We have Max Strus going -1 to a 77 overall. Tristan Thompson goes +1 to a 74 overall. Dean Wade +2 to a 73 overall. And then Zach Merrill goes +3 to a 73 overall. Merrill had, 26 points, if I'm not mistaken, last night. So he has been really on fire. He can shoot it. He had injuries when he played for Memphis previously, so he never really got a fair shake as far as getting in the rotation and staying because he could never stay healthy. So good to see him there actually getting some minutes and being productive. Boston Celtics, only a couple changes for them, but there were a couple key changes at the top. Jason Tatum goes -1 to a 94 overall, while Jaylen Brown goes +1 to an 89 overall. And last but not least, Derek White gets a +1 to an 83 overall. We go over to the surging 8 straight win Los Angeles Clippers, but they really didn't do them justice, if you ask me. Kawhi Leonard goes only +1 to a 91 overall. No changes for Harden or Paul George. Harden's averaging like 21, so is Paul George. He's taking a reduced role, more of a all-around defender and things like that, but no changes for either one of them. We do get a +1 for Ivica Zubac. We go all the way down to PJ Tucker. He only goes -1 to a 74, even though he's been abysmal, overall. Josh Primo finally gets bumped down to a 72. He was at a 74. It just doesn't make sense. Edmond, let's see. Every player's three-point tendencies are super high. I would lower them down. If you look at the attention to detail rosters, it's ATD rosters. Look under Celtic LG5. I think I might have that correct. Just look at his gamer tag. You can kind of see what they plug them in at. They do a really good job on the tendencies and stuff. Now, I'm not as well versed with the badge changes they do or the ratings changes. I kind of just do my own thing from there. But tendency wise, that'll get you in a good spot. I have not dove into current rosters. I've been working on retro rosters, so I can't really help you right now with anything as far as the high three-point tendencies. But yes, based on what I've seen, they have them considerably high for the spot ups and stuff like that. So let me go back also, because I always forget until after the video is recorded to show off the ratings. I always leave them on the letter grade for whatever reason. I forget, even though I have a big note in the corner of my page that says turn on ratings. I always forget because I never look that high up on the page. But yeah, I just want to go back through for anybody that's curious of what the ratings essentially would look like here on the ratings page, just in case anybody wants to make any manual changes off the shooting changes, because that's usually what people ask me about. So let's just get caught up there. One who I was expecting to go up was Neemias Queta, but he did not. Maybe if he continues to play well, he'll go up. We shall see. All right, jumping over to the Memphis Grizzlies. We have Ja Morant obviously back healthy. He hit the game winner against the Pelicans. How sorry are the Pelicans? They were up 20 at one point, and they blew that game. So it just doesn't make sense. I will check shoes and stuff at the end. JJ creates. I'm not sure. I didn't look at that this update. Usually they don't update stuff very often, but we'll check it just to be sure because I want to give benefit of the doubt. Jaren Jackson Jr. +1 to an 86 overall. Desmond Bain gets a position change to small forward shooting guard, and he goes +1 to an 85. Marcus Smart is coming back. He was supposed to come back today, but it got pushed back to the next game. He will actually start at shooting guard with Bain shifting up. I think that lineup will actually do well. I could see the Grizzlies kind of surging to get in that 7-8 spot if possible, because you got teams that just aren't doing great. DDT, what's going on? David Roddy goes +1 to a 74. Bismack Biyombo -2 to a 73. We have Vince Williams Jr., who has been really, really good lately, +4 to a 73 overall. He's one of the biggest movers in the update. And then we have, last but not least, Jacob Gilyard, who's been struggling. He goes -1 to a 72 overall. Next up, we got the Atlanta Hawks. Just a couple of changes for them. We have Trae Young going +1. I actually thought, based on Trae Young scoring 30 points in, 5-6 straight games, he would go up to a 90, but as you'll see in a few minutes, they don't have De'Aaron Fox at a 90 either. So I guess they wanted to go conservative there. But Bogdan Bogdanovic goes +1 to an 81 overall. AJ Griffin, who's been out for personal reasons, goes up -1 to a 74. And then somehow Wes Matthews goes -1 to a 71. Not quite sure why that was. Miami Heat, we have Jaime Jaquez goes to the 80 overall club. He goes +3. Now he is an 80 overall. Caleb Martin goes +2 to a 79 overall. -1 due to the position change to shooting guard small forward to a 78 for Duncan Robinson. Josh Richardson gets a position change to point guard shooting guard. He goes +1 to a 76. And then last but not least, Orlando Robinson's been in the rotation playing well. He goes +3 to a 73 overall. Charlotte Hornets. Terry Rozier has been really, really good lately. +2 for him to an 82 overall. Miles Bridges, after that -53 plus-minus game, I expected him to go down. He drops 1 to an 80 overall. Gordon Hayward goes +1. He's back in rhythm. He goes to a 79 overall. And then Ish Smith drops -1 to a 72 overall. Utah Jazz. We have Colin Sexton going up +2 to an 80 overall. He's been really, really good. Even better score than he was in the beginning of the year. Keontae George goes +2 to a 76 overall. He's been the starting point guard, but he's had a sprained foot lately. So we'll see how long it takes him to get back. Ochai Agbaji goes +1 to a 75 overall. Likewise, +2 to a 75 overall for Simone Fontecchio. He has been really, really good as a starting small forward. If you haven't noticed, they shifted Lauri Markkanen to power forward, and then John Collins comes off the bench. I don't think 2K switched those because I think ultimately they put Collins back to the starting lineup, especially if they're going to try to trade him like rumors are saying. Going over the Sacramento Kings, as I mentioned, no update for De'Aaron Fox. But Domantas Sabonis goes -1. Keegan Murray, really, really good. Hit the 12 threes the other night. Goes +3 to an 83 overall. Who has not been good is Kevin Huerter. He drops -2 to a 77 overall. I thought Trey Lyles should go down as well, but he didn't get touched. JaVale McGee goes -1 to a 76 overall. And looking at the Kings, they have some definite good pieces going forward, but I still think they need like one other piece, maybe upgrade Harrison Barnes if possible. Like I think that would be something that might benefit them. Keon Ellis is the last change for them. He gets position change to point guard. He also goes up to a 70 overall. He's taken all of the minutes for Davion Mitchell. So Mitchell's probably a trade candidate for them as well. Going over the New York Knicks, we get Jalen Brunson, +2 to an 89 overall. He has been phenomenal lately, especially the last 7 games. Julius Randle gets his +2 to an 85 overall, while RJ Barrett drops down -2 to an 81 overall, -2 for Emmanuel Quickley. Tough news for Mitchell Robinson being out for the season. That's really going to hurt them. +2 for Dante DiVincenzo, who's taken over for Quentin Grimes as a starting shooting guard. So that's definitely interesting to see. For those that don't know, Taj Gibson, a Tom Thibodeau favorite, was added to the roster a couple games ago. So he's already gotten time, of course, because Thibodeau can't play anybody that's young and up and coming. He has to play all the same veterans that he knows, and then the Knicks lose. So we'll see what happens. Going over the Lakers, Anthony Davis goes +1 to a 93 overall, -1 for Rui Hachimura to a 79 overall. Position update for Austin Reeves to point guard. He comes in behind D'Angelo Russell. Excuse me. Looking at the rest of the roster for the ratings, Taurean Prince goes +1 to a 76 overall. Cam Reddish goes -1 to a 74. Gabe Vincent's back healthy. He played last night. And then last but not least for the roster, +1 for Max Christie to a 72 overall. Going over to the Orlando Magic, we get Franz Wagner going +1 to an 84 overall. Surprised Banchero didn't go up 1, but they had Banchero a little high already, so that's probably why. Cole Anthony does go +2 to an 81 overall. Jalen Suggs goes +1 to a 79. -2 for Gary Harris to a 76. Goga Batazde -1 to a 76. And then Joe Ingles gets a +1 to a 75 overall. Going over to the Dallas Mavericks, Luka Doncic goes +1 to a 96 overall. Tim Hardaway Jr. gets a position update. No ratings change, but he gets a position update to small forward shooting guard. Dante Exum is one of the biggest movers in the entire update. +4 to a 78 overall. He's now a shooting guard small forward. For those that haven't noticed, he's been starting on the Mavericks with Kyrie out. I think he potentially could end up moving into the starting small forward spot. That would help a lot, I think, for them. +2 for Derrick Jones Jr. to a 77 overall. -1 for Grant Williams to a 77 overall. Jaden Hardy goes -1 to a 74 overall. And then no ratings change, but a position update for Olivier Prosper to power forward, small forward. Going over to the Brooklyn Nets, only 2 minor changes for them. Cam Thomas goes -1 to a 81 overall. And then Dennis Smith Jr. goes -1 overall as well. Interesting to note with them that the Nets have kind of hit a skid lately, just losing games. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just their defense isn't locked in quite as good, but it is what it is. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to update one thing on my sheet for Dante Exum because I forgot to put his position change there. So I just want to get that updated there. For those that want the written changes, you can go to Operation Sports and look at the forums. You'll see my thread there that shows the updates in written form for those that don't want to sit through the whole video. But please, I encourage you to keep going through the video. It really helps me in the algorithm and just helps get the numbers up, which is what I would love to see. Going over the Denver Nuggets, We get -1 for Michael Porter Jr. to an 82 overall. Christian Brown goes -1 to a 77, while Reggie Jackson goes +1 to a 78 overall. Looking at the Denver Nuggets, they finally look like they're getting a rhythm going off the bench. It just seems like where the Knicks aren't embracing the younger guys, it definitely seems like the Nuggets are using their guys in like Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strother, those guys definitely getting playing time. Speaking of Julian Strother, he goes +1 to a 74 overall. And so the Nuggets look like they'll be one of the top tier teams, of course, in the West again. I think maybe they upgrade a spot or two at the trade deadline or the buyout market. We'll see. Indiana Pacers. They love them some Tyrese Halliburton on 2K. He goes +2 to a 94 overall, despite his numbers being down just a tad. I don't know. And the Pacers have been losing lately. -1 for Miles Turner to an 83. Buddy Hield goes -1 to a 79. And then Isaiah Jackson goes +1 to a 77. He's been playing really well. I don't know what to make of the Pacers. Are they falling back down to earth? We'll have to see. New Orleans Pelicans. Oh, happy holidays, Jonathan. New Orleans Pelicans. Zion goes +1 to an 89 overall. +1 for Brandon Ingram to an 86 overall. +1 also for Jonas Valanciunas to an 84 overall. Hugo, what's going on, man? Trey Murphy III goes +1 to an 80 overall. Jose Alvarado +1 to a 77. +2 for Najee Marshall to a 77. -1 for Dyson Daniels. Oh, there was new players and errors. What did I miss? I missed something. Okay, it's my fault. I guess I looked earlier than I thought, but I didn't. Maybe I combed through too fast. I'll look at the errors and correct that video for sure. Thank you for letting me know that. Dyson Daniels goes -1 to a 75. Jordan Hawkins -1 to a 74. Cody Zeller -1 to a 73 overall. Detroit Pistons. Will they beat the Jazz and finally end the streak? We'll see. Oh, Eccles, Lichty, and Hodge were both at it. Okay. Oh, I didn't go through the Jordan era. That's why I stopped at the Kobe era. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Okay. I'll have to go through and do a little small video on them. Thank you. That's my fault for not being accurate and actually going through the older two eras. So I looked at the first two eras and I was like, nobody's changing here. And so it didn't look like they added anything. So I didn't go any further. But Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham goes -1 to an 83 overall. Position change for Bojan Bogdanovic. We get a downgrade for Asar Thompson. Let me change that on my list. I just noticed that he went down on the list. So let me get him added real quick. So he, I believe, went -2 to an 80 overall. Marvin Bagley III goes -1 to a 78. And then Jaden Ivey goes -1 to a 78 as well. Marcus Sasser goes +1 to a 77. Killian Hayes +1 to a 76. James Wiseman +2 to a 76. Position update for Isaiah Stewart to center. Alec Burks goes -1 to a 75. And then -1 for Isaiah Livers to 73 overall. Going over to the Toronto Raptors, Grady Dick goes -1 to a 70 overall. He's been awful, one of the worst rookies shooting it. Hasn't played well in the G League either. I hope he turns it around. Positive vibes for him. Malachi Flynn goes -1 to a 73 overall. Chris Boucher goes -1 to a 75. +1 for Precious Achiuwa to a 77. -1 for Dennis Schroeder to a 79. And then the big two at the top get a +1 to an 86 each for Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes. Going over to the Houston Rockets, Fred VanVleet gets a +1 to an 83 overall. Good to see VanVleet kind of turning it around. Overall, like he was shooting it, not the greatest. Turned it around pretty quick. Gets everybody involved when he's not scoring. That's what you want out of a true leader on a team. Jalen Green has been struggling. He goes -1 to an 82 overall. Dylan Brooks gets a +1 to an 80 overall. Well deserved. Tari Eason gets a position update to small forward. He goes +2 to an 80 overall. Jeff Green +1 to a 78 overall. Jayshawn Tate gets a position update to power forward. He goes -1 to a 75 overall. Surprisingly, no update for Aaron Holiday. Thought he's been playing well enough to at least get a bump to a 74, but no update there. Going over to the San Antonio Spurs real quick. At the bottom, we have Julian Champagnie +1, and then he's also updated to shooting guard. Doug McDermott -1 to a 73. We go to Jeremy Sohan -1 to a 76 overall. Zach Collins -1 to a 77 overall. We get position updates for Keldon Johnson. No rating update. Devin Vassell gets a position update to small forward, -1 to an 82. And then position update for Victor Wembanyama. He gets a +1 moving to center to 86 overall. Going over to the Phoenix Suns, small update for them. Eric Gordon drops to a 76 overall, -1. +1 for Grayson Allen to a 76 overall. Chimezie Metu gets a position update to power forward and a +1 to a 75. And then Keita Bates drop goes -1 to a 73 overall. Going over to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Bottom end of the roster real quick. Lindy Waters goes -2 to a 73 overall. We have Vasile Micic gets a position update to point guard, and he goes -1. Going over to Pokashevsky, he goes -2 to a 74. Kenrick Williams goes -1 to a 75. Kassan Wallace gets a position update to shooting guard and goes +1 to a 76. And then all the way at the top, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes +1 to a 95 overall. Minnesota Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards drops -1. It's based on his shooting. I would presume he's only averaging 16 a game over the last 9 games. He's been doing other things, but he does drop -1. Karl Anthony Towns goes +1 to an 87 overall. He's been averaging like 25 a game. And then Mike Conley Jr. gets a +1 to an 80 overall. Moving over to the Portland Trailblazers. Position updates for Anthony Simon to a point guard. He goes +1 to an 84 overall. Shaedon Sharpe goes +2 to an 82 overall. Malcolm Brogdon goes -1 to an 82 overall. Position update to shooting guard. Since he's coming off the bench along with Scoot Henderson. Speaking of Scoot Henderson, he goes +1 to a 76 overall. Skylar Mays goes -1 to a 74. Tamani Kamara goes +1 to a 73. And then the biggest mover in the entire roster update, Jop Reith goes +5 to a 72 overall. He's been playing really, really well off the bench. So good to see that. Going over to the Golden State Warriors. We get Brandon Podziemski, goes +1 to a 76 overall. He's now the starting shooting guard. +1 to a 77 overall for Moses Moody, along with +1 for Andrew Wiggins to a 77, and then +2 for Jonathan Kuminga to a 77, and then a position update for Klay Thompson to small forward, no ratings change. Last but not least, Washington Wizards, +1 for Tyus Jones to an 80 overall, -1 for Deni Avdija to a 78 overall. Daniel Gafford gets a +1 to 78 overall. Corey Kispert gets a +1 to 77 overall. Bilal Coulibaly gets a +2 to a 76 overall. And then Mike Muscala goes -1 to a 72 overall. So all in all, that is the update for 2K24's third 2K ratings update. Let me know in the comments what changes you like, what changes you think should have happened. If they're not there, what changes maybe you like, you don't like, things like that. So, yeah, I hope everybody has a very, very Merry Christmas. I should be back sometime before the new year on another video, but just in case I'm not, Happy New Year to everybody as well. I hope everybody's healthy, safe, and enjoying the time with their friends and family, whoever you're spending time with for the holidays. In the meantime, please, 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 if you could, hit the like button on the video. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. It really, really would make my holiday if I can get some more subscribers. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to all of the 2K content. I'm going to drop one more video highlighting the Jordan era retro players, and that'll be it for me, for the week. But thanks, everybody, for watching, and I'll catch you next time.